Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us on our webinar today, Outgrowing Your Leasing Process, Here's How to Keep Up. My name is Jacob Abrams and I'm a solution engineer here at Lease Accelerator, an Insight software company. I'd first like to introduce my counterpart on this webinar, Nikhil Gupta. Nikhil is a chartered accountant working as a senior consultant at Lease Accelerator, an Insight software company. He specializes in helping companies navigate the complexities of lease accounting compliance. He has supported numerous clients in implementing solutions for ASC 842 and IFRS 16 and streamlining their lease accounting processes.
Thanks, Jacob. Jacob is a solutions engineer for Lease Accelerator. Over the years, Jacob has worked in business development, having conversations with clients about lease accounting, external and internal audits, as well as reporting. He joined Lease Accelerator at the beginning of 2020, so just between the waves of public and private companies trying to adopt neither lease accounting standards. Since then, Jacob has worked with many organizations to get compliant, as well as maintaining and going beyond that compliance to now focusing on optimizing the end-to-end lease lifecycle.
Thank you, Nikhil. Here's our agenda for today's session. Firstly, we will be going over current systems and processes. We'll then move to important data points within your leases that need to be captured accurately. Next, we will explain how to make leasing easier through advanced technology. We will then touch on achieving sustainable compliance, and then we'll go over required outputs and reports for lease accounting and audits. And then lastly, we will go over key control points throughout the life cycle of your leases and then finish off with a Q&A. So I'll now pass it over to Nikhil.
Thank you. Before we dive into specifics, let me quickly walk you through what we are going to accomplish today. We have 5 objectives here. First, we are focusing on sustainable compliance, not just achieving it once, but maintaining it as your business grows. Second, we'll tackle these common questions and gray areas that keep coming up in your day-to-day work. Third, we'll look at real examples from companies that have already optimized their leasing process. Fourth, we'll cover up the key outputs and policies and reports you need to build a reliable framework. And finally, our ultimate goal is to make compliance easier, not just compliant, but actually manageable so you can focus on more strategic work. With that roadmap in place, let's dive in. Next slide, please. Thanks. So let's talk about one of the biggest pain points we see across organizations. Some of you are already having experience in flashbacks. This visual right here tells a story that's all too familiar. A single lease doesn't live in isolation. From inception to termination, it touches multiple departments and stakeholders across organizations. This visual right here, think about it. You got your business units who actually need the space or equipment, procurement or real estate teams negotiating the terms, treasury getting involved in payments structure and cash flow, finance and accounting trying to comply with standards and close the books, and business and admins managing day-to-day operations. Each of these teams has their own priorities, their own timelines, and here's the real kicker, their own system and processes. And that's where things get messy. What we end up with are disparate systems and spreadsheets scattered across the organization. The lease data exists in fragments, some in your ERP, some in your Excel, and some in property management systems. The result, no single source of truth, no cohesive set of data and analytics. When you need to report, you're hunting down information, reconciling versions, and hoping nothing fell through the cracks. This decentralization might have worked when you had 50 leases, but when you are managing hundreds or even thousands, it becomes unsustainable, and that's exactly what we need to address. Let's move and discuss typical data sources. So we talked about the decentralization problem. Now let's get specific about where your lease data actually lives today. Take a look at these 8 data sources. Now, you're probably not using all of them, but I'm willing to bet most of you are juggling at least 3 or 4, and that's exactly the challenge. You might have IT asset management system tracking your equipment leases, fleet management applications for your vehicles, procurement and sourcing systems where contracts are initiated, account payables applications for where your payments are processed. Then there are the lessor and landlord systems, often external portals you don't even control, regional and business unit spreadsheets that someone started years ago and are still being maintained for some reason, your fixed asset register and other spreadsheets, the ones that live on someone's desktop where you don't even know which is the final version. Now, this challenge looks different depending on your organization size, but trust me, it's a challenge either way. Smaller companies, you are managing tracking down agreements manually, hoping everything accounted for by the month end. Larger companies, you got scale, but that means fleet system in one system, real estate in another, equipment leases scattered across regional databases. It's complex, or it is complexity of a different kind. As you're listening to this, I want you to think about your current state, map out where your leases actually exist, then ask yourself, what would it take to get to a single source of truth? What integrations do you need? What manual processes you can automate? Because data gathering is step one, but data management is ongoing challenge. Over to you, Jacob.
Awesome. Thanks, Nikhil. Now, when we look at this slide, you might think that's a lot of moving parts, and you'd be absolutely right. But here's the thing, every single one of these data points on this slide matter. So let's break this down. At the heart of lease accounting, we have all these interconnected data elements feeding into our calculations and compliance requirements. Starting with the fundamentals, we need accurate commencement dates and lease terms. These might seem straightforward, but when you're managing hundreds or thousands of leases, even small errors compound quickly. Then we have the payment structure, both fixed and variable payments. Variable payments tied to indices or rates add complexity because they need to be reassessed regularly. Moving to the decision points, purchase options, renewal options, and residual value guarantees. They all require judgment calls. But here's the critical part. These judgments must be based on accurate, complete data. And then on the valuation side, economic life, fair market value, and lease incentives all factor into your classification decisions and measurement calculations. Organizations that excel have centralized their lease data in purpose-built systems that ensure accuracy, maintain audit trails, and automatically update calculations when any data point changes. I think we all know leasing and lease accounting is a complex operation, and this slide does a great job summarizing why. Let's speak on the challenges. One is simply the differences between lease contracts. The first challenge was finding all your leases, which all companies should have a good handle on now. The challenge now is more so, how do you create a repeatable process to extract all the key accounting bits out of a lease's contract that would be needed for the accounting? There are about 40 to 150 attributes per lease to collect. Another challenge, we all know that leases aren't static. It's imperative that the people utilizing the assets understand the proper processes to pass lease changes to the accountants and why they must do so in a timely manner. Another challenge that compounds on this is that you may have multiple different systems that hold lease information today or want to receive lease information. It's good to think about how you can automate these platforms to work together via integrations. The last added piece of complexity is that there's likely different stakeholders that touch leases depending on what they are. Perhaps you have a centralized real estate team to manage your leased properties. You also have a category manager for the equipment leases. Who's in charge of returning the leases on time? Is there a procurement team in charge of finding replacement assets? And then once the replacement asset is found, does the treasury team then secure the financing agreement? Since leases may touch so many different stakeholders internally, it's really important that all stakeholders are involved in the lease management lifecycle.